It is 11:42 and it's Wednesday. That means we have our plant and garden expert Craig Hignett joining us in studio. We're going to kick it off with this. So all the snow that we've been getting, any issue you think we're going to have with any of our plants that are coming up?
Not yet. I've been watching trees as I travel back and forth to work. Haven't seen any major damage yet. Of course, the tulips, daffodils, things like that, they're very hardy. They're going to be just fine.
Second question before we get to the viewers we're expecting to warm up. When do you think we should start worrying about mowing the grass for the first time? I know there's a lot of people itching to get out.
Oh,
I've seen people mowing grass for over a week.
Andrew said maybe next week.
Lawns that are fully exposed without trees, even if there's maybe a little south slope to it where it's getting even more solar radiation, those people have been mowing for a couple of weeks already. So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, it's coming.
All right.
Goodness. All righty. So first question from the viewer. So we just took our winter cones off, our knockout / shrub roses, and now it's snowing. They had new growth and new leaves on them already. Will the snow and cold weather harm them? Well, I guess we kind of already.
Well, it's only going to harm if we get below 27 degrees, and I don't know. I've been telling everybody's so anxious to get out in the yard. Everything at this point, it's going to be fine. The things I really worry about are the fruit trees. That's always a big issue. If they get into bloom and then we get a hard freeze, could damage the crop.
Oh, no. Chad wants to know what's the best way to start a no-dig garden?
Best way to start a no-dig garden, of course, is build up the soil, get it all ready. Then you go ahead and you get your mulch down so that you are not competing with weeds. And then as you're planting, you go ahead and you pull the mulch back, do your planting, let the seeds come up, or if you're using transplants, get them in the ground, then put the mulch back over. You're off and running.
All right, perfect. Well, this is from Douglas. So my rhubarb is starting to grow a seed pod, and I hear that the seed pod should be removed. But should I cut the pod or should I break off the pod?
Either one. Cut or break. When it's pretty chilly out, they'll usually snap right out. But yes, get rid of the seed pod.
Is it safe to plant lilies yet?
If you've got them, and wait until the ground dries out a little bit.
Yeah.
A week, 10 days ago, the ground was very workable. Now you're just dealing with a giant mud pie.
All righty. Well, Sally is wondering when she can trim her boxwood bushes.
I'd get that done. We're far enough into the season. We're going to start to see new growth. So now is the time to go ahead and do this spring pruning.
Okay. Judy, when will be a good time to transplant rhubarb?
Rhubarb, anytime that the ground finally is workable, go ahead. Remember that you always lift it with as much soil as possible. If it's a really big crown, you might try and divide it. And of course, back in the ground, root stimulator, mulch to keep the weeds down and conserve moisture. But right now, I've got a feeling the ground's going to be a little bit too wet.
Oh, just a little bit. All right. Well, will this weather play havoc with my lettuce and carrots I planted? Chad is wondering.
Not really. I mean, probably. I don't know if they've come up. If they haven't come up, don't worry about it. The seed is hardy enough to get through this kind of weather. If the plants have actually come up, they're probably still going to do just fine. We have not gotten down into that killing range temperature-wise.
Rick wants to know, in the process of reviving last year's garden carcasses that triggered budding of my aloe vera plants, I have never seen a flower on my aloe plants before. Is there anything special that I have to do to them to make sure I see flowers?
Not really. It's a matter of usually age, getting the plant old enough, maybe keeping a little root bound. Aloes do not like huge pots, so make sure that you're also fertilizing on a regular basis, and occasionally drop in a shot of bloom booster fertilizer. It has that higher phosphorus that causes plants to come into bloom.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a few-minute break here, but in the meantime, get your questions in there. We're going to be back with more questions from Craig, our plant and garden expert, coming up in a few moments. Welcome back in. We are here with our plant and garden expert, Craig Hignite, answering all your plant and garden questions. We're going to get going again here with Connie asking, is there a weed control I can use in my English ivy that won't damage it?
It's called hands. When you're into a broadleaf ground cover, about the only thing you do is go in and use your hands. Now, if your weeds are kind of tall, you put on that rubber glove with a cotton glove over it, dip your hands in the herbicide, and just paint it on the leaves of the weed. Keep it off of your desirable plant. It'll work, but usually hand weeding is the best route to go.
Monty wants to know, is there any hope for a blue spruce after bagworms?
If it hasn't been damaged too much, as long as there are needles left on the stem, it will go ahead and leaf out. And this early in the season, I would wait until you actually see new growth coming out on the plant to see how badly damaged the tree is. I'd be getting some spinosad on it in early June to go ahead and kill off any bagworms that are going to hatch out this spring. But you've just got to let Mother Nature take her course. And if there are no needles, live needles on a branch, it's gone.
All righty, well, this one's from Dory. Can we trim maple trees now? Also, why does 4 to 6 inch trunk size maple trees have long splits in the trunk?
Well, you can prune now on maples. You're going to get some bleeding. I'm sure that the sap is definitely up. The maples have already bloomed. As far as those long cracks down the trunk, those are frost cracks. The sap came up, we got a freeze, it expanded the trunk, and just like a glass milk jug, it broke. So just clean the edges of those wounds, no paint, no cover, let Mother Nature heal that over herself.
How do you get rid of nutsage?
Nutsage, there is an actual chemical for nutsage, and you put it on, follow the directions on the label, and then wait. It's one of those things that it takes several weeks. It has to work its way down into those little nodules, the nuts in the ground, before the plant will die. So it'll work, just give it time.
Alrighty, well, one of our viewers is asking, my rhubarb is doing terrible. What can they do?
Well, depending on the conditions, you might go ahead and lift that rhubarb when the ground is workable and rework the bed. Go ahead and add some organic matter, compost, peat moss. Go ahead, put the rhubarb back in the ground. Make sure you put down your root stimulator when it goes back in the ground. Maybe a little bit of compost on the surface, and then of course mulch to go ahead and conserve moisture, keep the weeds down. And don't forget, on these perennial vegetable crops, some water invested in August and September is going to make a big difference when spring finally rolls around the next year.
You talk a lot about root stimulator, and Gail has a question. Where can I buy it? So maybe there's a few places you can buy that. And should I use it on my aloe vera plant when repotting?
I use it on house plants quite often. And of course, we have it at Wallace's, Teskey's. I don't know if the big box stores have it. It's a Fertilome product, and Fertilome normally sticks with your independent retailers, not the box stores.
Okay.
Alrighty, well, our last question here is from Mick. It's a short one. Should I prune witch hazel now?
I assume it's already bloomed. It's one of the first things that blooms in the spring. If it has bloomed, go ahead and prune.
All right, Craig, thank you so
Thank
much
you, Craig.
for, again, joining us this Wednesday. Be sure you join our Facebook Live each and every Wednesday with Craig, where you can submit questions and be a part of this conversation. We'll be back in just a moment.